Hi guys. Okay, we're back. So what we want to do is the last few videos we've done were on laying out three different signs or sets of signs. This was one of them, so I want to go ahead and carve this one on film so you guys can kind of see what the process is. So first thing I'm going to do is carve this little frosty mug here, this little beer mug. Oh, it's on that end. Sorry. I'm going to carve this little frosty mug. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm actually going to use the 60 degree, the same one I used for my 1-inch inset letters that I did on the little signs. And I use this quite often for detail. I also have the option, obviously, of using the profile bit for the for this detail, but this cuts a little bit. I can cut a little bit wider line, and this being really simple artwork, it's not so detailed that I can't do it with a 60 degree. So I'm going to do this with a 60 degree just so you guys can get an idea of how that works. So let me get my magnifiers on here. Okay, and I need to set my depth. So again, I set the depth more at the width of the cut. So I've got it just about at 0 there. I want to set it to where I've just got a little bit of depth going there. And I'll kind of test it and see, and then I may have to adjust it. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Now what I'm going to do, because I've got all of my lines done there, I'm going to go back, I'm going to set it a little bit deeper and give it a pretty heavy line around the outside. Okay, that pretty much takes care of that. Now I'm going to change cutters off camera and I'll come back and do those letters. Well, I forgot to do these little inset letters, so while I've still got that 60-degree cutter in there, I'm going to go ahead and do these before I change out to the profile bit. You guys will notice that these aren't our standard 1-inch letters. They're the same font as these, so we have to match them up. So I'm not doing the little dips, trying to stay in the same kind of letter style as these. So they're a little bit, I really have to pay attention to what I'm doing to make sure that I stay within the font that I'm working with. Okay, now we'll change the cutter over to the profile bit and I'll come right back and we'll start on these outside letters. Okay, so there we have the profiling done. Now I'm going to change routers and change router bits, and we'll do that background. Okay guys, so I got the profiling done, I got my beer mug all done. So now, and my little inset letters. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to do the background around here. So what I'm going to do, and you guys, most of you guys know this already, but just to, in case there's somebody new watching, I'm using a 90-degree V-groove bit, just our standard 90-degree V-groove, and I've changed to a bigger router. And I've talked about this maybe once or twice before, but because this is now, I'm going to be taking out a lot more wood than I was by just doing the small stuff. I want a little bit bigger router. I love that little DeWalt DWP611, which is what I was using for the profiling and all the other stuff. But I like, when I'm taking out more wood, I like something with a little bit more power to it. That's just a lot of work for that little DeWalt.
What's that, a horse and a half?
Yeah, this is the Porter cable.
1 3/4. Right?
The Porter cable, what is it? The
690 LR.
690 LR, that's right. So, and it's a really good router, very good router. So, yeah, I guess that's about it. I'll just go ahead and get this thing done. You guys can see how I do the background on this. And I gotta set the depth here. That looks a little bit deep. That should be about right. Here we go. All right, so there's our, I believe that's all the carving.
Turn it around to hold it up, son.
Yeah. I think I got all the carving done on there. So now what I'm going to do is set up, and we'll spray this and get it ready to get all the black in the background, and then we'll sand it off, see how it comes out. Okay guys, so now I'm going to spray it. I've gone with my stiff bristle brush, and I've taken out all of the loose sawdust in there, brushed it really good from just about every angle, just to make sure that all of that sawdust is out of there, because that's really important to do before you start spraying it. Now this is, again, I talked about this in the layout. This is a piece of pine, clear pine. Now with pine you have a little bit of issue. That's why I cover it with sanding sealer when I first get my pine to the shop, because I don't want my ink to bleed into the grain at all. So and then the other way that you can avoid that bleeding issue is to make sure that you've got that you don't spray it too heavy. Okay guys, so with this pine, again, you can't spray it near as heavy as you might with some other woods, redwood or cedar. There you'll never have any issues, or I never have had, with bleeding or anything like that. But this pine you do, especially if you don't keep that can moving, and if you're spraying too heavy with that ink. So I've got the edges all sprayed. Now I'll set up and spray the carving there. Are we good, Dad?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, you can see I'm just doing little spurts here. We'll go around and catch all of that outside line on that background. Now I'm going to turn it over and catch it from the top direction. And again, like I've talked about before, it doesn't have to be absolutely pitch midnight black in that background. It's still going to show really, really well. And again, this is something that Dad's been telling me for decades, because I just tend to have to make sure that everything is pitch black back there, but it's really important on this pine that you don't necessarily do that. So that's plenty good enough, and I don't think we'll have any issues with bleeding on that. So we're going to let that dry, and then come back on camera and sand it off and see how she looks. Okay guys, as you can see, I got off most of the ink, but I still left a little bit on there. And I'll take that, take the rest of that off with this 120 grit belt. Yep. I think that should be.
Turn it over before you blow it off.
Yeah. So you can see I've got a couple little tiny high spots there. I got one there, one there. I think that's it. So you guys know how I fix those.
They don't show from here.
No? Well, anyway, I got a little white spot right there and a little one right there. So I'll just touch that up with a Sharpie and we're good to go. Now, what you can do, and I know some of you guys have said this before, that you like a little bit finer sand, and I've got a little palm sander that sometimes I want a little bit finer sand on those. So I will use a palm sander and put a 220 on there or something like that. And let's see. I don't know, Dad. Could you have found a bigger one? This is
I
pretty
looked
small.
for a bigger one, but I
yeah,
couldn't.
I like the kind there about this circumference of
Yeah, I
a
looked
trash
for
can.
trash can size, but I couldn't find it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so anyway, so this about wraps it up. I'm going to put the clear on here, but you guys know what that looks like. So we'll wrap this one up, and then we'll get on to that third sign and make a video on that one. We'll see you on the next one.